You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
It's not true. That's impossible.
You're listening to Making Tracks. This is episode 199. I'm your co-host Mark Newbold, and joining me today is a man who's been down more dark hyperspace lanes than a second-hand stoplight freighter. It's Mark Mulcaster. How you doing, man?
I was wondering what you're going to say about going down dark places then. I'm good. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good. The weather's nice. It feels like summer finally.
Finally. Oh, my goodness gracious. Yeah. I can for once report that I am slightly sweaty and sweltering in my collection room. It's a sacrifice we make for dear old listeners.
There's worse places to be sweaty, but let's not get into that. So, loads of stuff happening on the site at the moment. Loads of stuff happening in the Star Wars galaxy. We had an episode with our Acolyte guests. And, of course, we'll have a reaction chat coming out for episode 5 very, very soon. Whatever the title of that is, my guess is it's going to be called Night.
Is it going to be called Night?
With a K?
With a K.
I mean, I know Tom Cruise has already done that, but why not? But you're sitting in a collection room right now. Have you, in your collection, added anything to it recently?
No, I haven't. Not this week. But maybe next week I might have something to report back. However, I will say I did some weird thinking, actually. I will give them a shout out. They are kind of slightly to blame for many different things in my life. I was listening to the most recent episode of Rebel Force Radio, which was very, very good. They were talking about like action figures and stuff. Jimmy definitely is a loose figure collector.
Yeah.
And I've always been a mint on card figure collector, which has made my life quite difficult and obviously space quite difficult. And I've thought to myself, do you know what? It's been a long time since I put those vintage action figures into that little glass case. And I quite enjoyed that, especially because some of them actually I pulled off of the bubble. So I was like, what are we going to do? Now, I've got my Power of the Force 2 figures, but I don't want to take off a card. But I was like, there's plenty of beta cards for the Phantom Menace around. So I'm thinking I might buy a load of carded Phantom Menace figures and just rip them off a bubble. So I then put them into a display case. So I've got all of them and they're all nice and I know exactly where they came from. So that's going to be my project for the next 6 months.
Good to have a project, though. It's nice to have something you're gunning for.
Well, this is it, because I haven't really had one for a while because I sold them a load of stuff to kind of start to clear out a little bit of space and kind of declutter. And I could still do a bit more of that. But oddly, the plan was to go and buy vintage Star Wars. And I kind of haven't really done that. Maybe let's just park that for the time being, because it's something that's kind of come to me. I mean, there's loads of them on eBay, and it's not often that I kind of take figures off of a card and kind of actually, stand them up and stuff. So I figured, I think I've got enough wall space to juggle stuff around to get another one of exactly the same cabinets and then put it next to it. So it'd be quite a nice little companion for the vintage Star Wars collection.
That's a nice idea. I'm sort of the same with the Jazzware stuff. When I started collecting it, I didn't want to take it off the card. And then I suddenly thought, I love these ships. And they look so good on the shelves. So when you see my collection room, there's just Jazzware ships scattered all over the place. There is something very satisfying about pulling stuff off the bubble, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. And I think especially for those who are fairly ingrained in the mint and collecting community, it's a little bit naughty. There's something very kind of, ooh. Yeah. But it's satisfying. And let's be fair, space is a premium. I've got plenty of stuff out of the box, stuff that I've taken out. But that's partly because otherwise your collection's just going to end up looking like a warehouse, really, when you think about it. And you've got to enjoy it somehow. And I think that might be an ongoing project for the next foreseeable. Actually make stuff a bit more accessible so I can get to it, can see it. But it might mean some sacrifices, or it might mean, I don't know, having to hire some storage or something. But, it would be quite nice to just be able to see stuff, get to bookcases without having to drag totes of VHSs and computer games and stuff like that out of the way. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? Because I think the more time you can spend in your collection, I think the more chance you kind of go, oh yeah, I quite fancy buying some more of that.
No, I get that. I mean, I don't spend, considering it's like the whole floor of the house, I don't spend a massive amount of time up there. I'm up and down, taking stuff up, moving stuff around, bagging stuff or whatever. And I do need to. The back end of the room is mostly boxes. There's probably 250 comics in a box, 12 boxes of Marvel comics up there I need to get down into the spare room and then swap some of the Star Wars stuff in the spare room, take it up. So I'll have a bit of room to work around. But I need a couple of days clear of anything to do that.
So what about you? What else have you had?
I've had a parcel of stuff turn up from Chicago. Ross Hollibon, who writes some of our reviews, film and TV reviews on the site, has been picking up bits for me, keeping them to one side. He posted them all across this week. Amongst a few other bits, I got the Indiana Jones CD box set.
Nice.
So it's got all 5 movies in there. So it's all on CD, dual case CD, which is really nice. Yeah, I'm chuffed to bits that I got hold of that. I just annoyingly announced it on vinyl. So now I've got to think, do I want it on vinyl as well? Because that's a choice. The thing that I got that I'm the most pleased with was, we've all heard Christmas in the Stars. I've got a Kenny Baker signed edition of Christmas in the Stars. I need to get signed by Anthony Daniels. I really do. So I've got that on vinyl. Then it came out on CD a couple of times. So I got it on CD. And all I needed was it on cassette. And I've had an eBay search for, 6 or 7 years. And the cheapest I ever saw it was about 700 quid for it on cassette. I just love cassettes. They just look so cool. So I'd found a few. I got Shadows of the Empire on cassette. And there was a few other bits I'd sort of chased down. And then I saw it about, 6 months ago. And somebody was selling it, I think, for like 50 quid. Which is
worth it.
So I checked it out and it checked out. I made an offer and the guy accepted the offer and got it sent to Ross, and Ross has sent it to me. So now I have got in my possession the cassette version of Christmas in the Stars, which I am proper happy about. In terms of finding stuff that's been a bit of a white whale, and I love chasing things down. I know we're all the same, and there's always that one little thing that you're after, and when you do finally track it down, there's a great sense of satisfaction when you get it.
Oh, absolutely. That is quite cool. I didn't know that they actually did the Shadows of the Empire soundtrack on cassette.
Yeah, I didn't for the longest time. And so, I got that on vinyl, cassette, CD. Very pleased.
Hi, my name is Amy Sang, and you're listening to Fantasy Tracks.
So, what are we going to talk about?
Well, let's kick off with some really, really good news. Rancho Obi-Wan, we've been waiting and hope that there will be some kind of Rancho event. And there is a Rancho event. It's probably not where most people would have expected. It's taking place on the 5th of October in Seattle in Washington, which is not where Rancho Obi-Wan is. Of course, that's in Petaluma. It's taking place at the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle. It's going to be an amazing night. There's no more information. The tickets aren't out yet, but they will be soon. But really pleased that there's finally a Rancho fundraiser, something for us to congregate towards. There should be some interesting news coming out from that very, very soon. So looking forward to that. And also, Diego Luna. Now, he's been talking about season 2 of The Acolyte. He didn't really give a lot away because, well, why would you? But he was talking at last weekend's Ace Superhero Comic Con. And he did say that fans of Rogue One will be very satisfied. He did go into some detail. He said, I can tell you Rogue One is coming, meaning coming after season 2 Andor. So there will be characters there that you will recognise. There will be cool stuff. Those who love Rogue One, this season is going to be very special. And it's going to be fascinating to go straight to Rogue One after watching this second season, because you will see Rogue One from a different perspective. I promise you that. It's fantastic. The only thing I can tell you is what happens at the end. It's the world upside down. That's the only thing you don't talk about in an interview. But here we all know what the end is. I can tell you one thing. Tony Gilroy is a fantastic writer, and he created amazing characters that we got to meet in Andor season 1. It's going to be a very rich second season because all those stories matter today. It's a true ensemble piece. It got very complicated in season 1 and everything has yet to get resolved. Every story matters. So he says something in there, Mark, that really struck me as something that at the moment may seem divisive. He says you will see Rogue One from a different perspective. And I can't help but think that right now we've got all this stuff happening with the Acolyte, and that is making us look at the prequels and certain aspects of Star Wars from a different point of view. One of the things that's been a very common conversation online this week is the thought process that back in 99, when The Phantom Menace came out, that made you look at the original trilogy in a different way. And now for the first time, people who were raised on the prequels are getting something that took place before Phantom Menace, something in canon that's making you look at Phantom in a different way. And as much as those OT fans were quite shook at the time, and it was a big shake-up to the whole sort of substructure of Star Wars when Phantom Menace came out, the fans of prequel trilogy era are now having a similar thing with the Acolytes, making you think about things. It's reevaluating things, different perspective. I'm all in for Rogue One being reevaluated and looked at from a slightly different angle. And maybe it's something we've discussed as fans before. Maybe it won't come as a great shock. That's got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
I think so, although it could be slightly risky business because let's be fair, on one hand, we could arguably say that Rogue One is the true standout success since Disney era started. And that film is very highly regarded by lots of fans of all ages. I'm a little bit nervous by that, but it could literally just mean that Rogue One was very much from like a Jyn/Andor perspective. Maybe this is more of a Krennic perspective, Krennic and Tarkin, or even a Galen Erso perspective. Maybe we see that whole impetus of him building in that weakness and that flaw, because that would be quite interesting to explore that a bit more.
We think about season 2 of Andor and we know certain characters are coming back from season 1. And because Rogue One was not brutal, but it was fairly tough on the characters, that some of those ain't going to walk through the back end of season 2. Some of them won't make it. Luthen, you'd be surprised to see survive, for example. Whereas you know Mon Mothma survived. She's still with us in Ahsoka. So there's certain characters that have yet to come in. You'd expect to see K2SO, for example. But like you just said, there's every chance that we could see Krennic, and Galen is a great shout. We could see Galen, or the ambitions of Tarkin starting to get more attached to the Death Star project at this point of time, because we know that's something that he kind of inherits in Rogue One fully. Not that he wasn't already, but really completely no mistaking he's in charge of that. And we've seen elements even of that in the Bad Batch when they closed down Project Necromancer, and he says divert the funds to Project Stardust. So you know he's got his hands on the wheel way back.
And I tell you what, when Tarkin said that, did that not kind of slightly feel like a bit of breath of fresh air? I can't remember the last time I've seen that get uttered in a Star Wars show, obviously really since Rogue One, 8 years or something like that. It's such a tiny Easter egg, but it means nothing to those who it may have escaped. But for those who paid attention, it suddenly lashed out a huge chain and just grabbed onto like the original trilogy just with that one reference. So I thought that was really cool. We were excited with the release of Andor, and I think the release of Andor season 2 is going to just be even greater. I think, anticipation. I mean, to be fair, actually, no, I'm not even going to kind of like try and dust over that. There's definitely people who were like, even Andor season 1 were not happy, and in fact haven't been happy really since probably season 2 of The Mandalorian. For somebody who can actually wanted something a little bit heavier, a little bit more, weight to it and a subtext, I was, really excited. So I cannot wait to see what Tony Gilroy does for season 2.
One thing that strikes me, and this is a fan opinion versus, let's say, an actor or producer's opinion, Diego Luna may well look at what happens in Andor season 2 when we get to Rogue One. The scene at the beginning with Tivik and Cassian, and that cold, basically, he executes him because he can't be captured. He can't give that detail away. He can't escape because he's messed his arm up. Maybe we'll see Daniel Mays. Maybe we'll see how that all happens. I'm hoping we do. We know, as fans who've not studied but sort of lived with the film for like 8 years now, that there is a very strong grey area in how the rebellion is run. And we've seen it in the comics. I mean, Charles Soule's finishing his Star Wars run with issue 50, and he has shown, even in that Empire to Jedi era, that the rebellion it's a formalized army. It has rules and regulations, but they're not above metaphorically steering towards the darker side of morality and conscience to do what they need to do, because it's what needs to be done. I think you're going to see even more of that, I would imagine, in season 2 of Andor. So to us fans, it might not seem like such a stretch, but to an actor producer like Diego Luna, who probably thinks of Star Wars more in black and white, maybe he thinks that's you're going to look at Star Wars from a different point of view.
I think that's the interesting thing, because I think that was what we just started to kind of see in season 1, was that real conversation of these good guys. Yeah, they might be fighting for what we consider right, but the ways and means that they're going about doing it isn't necessarily the most altruistic or noble of ways of doing it. So if we get to see more of that, I'm well up for that. I like for the grey man, the spies in space and that, and the dirty deeds and all that they have to do. It's a very compelling story that we haven't really had. And with that character, we've got so much potential we could flesh out and really kind of make him start to question the nobility of things. And it would be quite nice to get Tivik back. Maybe that's a cool thing. Maybe actually they bring him back and he's an ally. Maybe he pops up a couple of times, but we don't necessarily see the mission. We maybe see missions similar to that where he's gone off and got information. And then it just so happens that the next time we see him, it's Cassian and Tivik again. And then you can remember, Cassian's he's got to protect himself from the rebellion.
We've seen Cassian grow into the role, if you like, in season 1. So you assume by season 2, that is just going to keep getting dialed up. What he will do for the rebellion is intensified because there's not a lot he wouldn't do. But also, we saw in season 1 that a lot of it was to protect friends and family. If he treats that rebellion like family because now his mother's gone and, you know, a lot of other things that he relied on aren't there anymore. Tivik comes in, like you say, and you see a Tivik that's not kind of a bit unsure and a bit unsteady like he was in Rogue One. He was off his game, he was injured and he was nervous. And if you see him start off as quite competent and able, the pressure dials. And it's not the sort of rebellion, like Luthen said, you can't just walk away from it. You know, you've got to stick with it. Tivik's one of those guys that the pressure gets to him and then he gets injured. We see him and Cassian as not a team, but as colleagues that work well together. Yeah. And then he's got to put the bullet in him at the end to protect everyone. And that's even more weight to it, doesn't it?
For example, maybe they're on a mission together and that's how his arm gets damaged.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like I tripped over the cat on the way out the door.
Yeah.
I can't climb. It's actually like, you know, my arm's not great. It would just add so much more just to that one theme that really, in the whole grand scheme of things, it sets up the Andor character in Rogue One, but it's kind of slightly a throwaway moment in some respects. It is. It's a James Bond cold opening. It's like it's the end of the last mission and, you know how you transition into the next one.
This is Matt Ferguson and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So we go back to Blackburn and Star Wars Fan Fun Day back in May. We had the chance to sit down with a number of guests, and this interview is myself sitting down with Scott Richardson. Scott was Quiggold in The Force Awakens. So here's myself and Scott Richardson at Star Wars Fan Fun Day.
So we're here at Blackburn at Ewood Park Football Club. I'm here with Scott. How's your day going?
It's awesome. It's been good. I think they've missed a trick though. It should be Ewok Park, surely. Should have been. That would have been perfect. I think Lucas was one of us. What to say about that, wasn't he? So, Fan Fun Day. I mean, it's always a good show. It's always busy. There's loads of people. There's kids everywhere, and everyone's enjoying, you know, Star Wars, especially on this weekend. Yeah. How's it for you from the other side of the table? Yeah, it's lovely. I came here, must have been 9 years ago when the film first came out, The Force Awakens. You know, and the interest then was a massive, you know, the first one of the new series. And today is just as buzzing. It's been a great crowd. It's got that nice family feel about it. Yeah. You know, it's not so corporate. It's just lovely. And good chats with people. It's nice. And how has the last 9 years been? I mean, I can't believe it's 10 years next year. I mean, you would have filmed it 10 years ago by now. That's right. I mean, so it was the very first film I ever got, the first job I ever got with the agents. Yeah. And so I've kind of been riding on the back of that ever since. I've had a couple of bits and pieces, but you're coming at the top with Star Wars. There's only one way to go after that. I was going to say, it's pretty hard to top being in, and such a key sequence. I mean, Maz's castle is a really vivid, busy scene, and your character Quiggold is right there, very visible. Yeah, I mean, to go from like being an extra in the background to a speaking part with my own action figure and everything was just phenomenal. I mean, I should have bought a lottery ticket that day, I think, because it's just lucked in everywhere. Yeah. And so the last 9 years, you've presumably done other events. Oh no, I think we met at Leamington Spa. Yeah, Spa Wars. A few years ago. So you've done other events. Do you enjoy that, interacting with folks, talking about stuff? It's great. I mean, most of the guys know more than me. I talk about my experiences, you know, meeting Harrison Ford, how I fortunately got the role and all that kind of stuff. And the appetite from fans is just fantastic. You know, it's nice to impart some of that back because, you know, I realise how blessed and lucky I was to get that. Yeah. The practicalities of the role, getting in the suit. I mean, it's a sizable suit. How was that to work with? Not too bad. So we'd set back, you know, off set with the fat suit on, but the head off and the arms off, and then say, right, we're going on in 10 minutes, and there's a big mad rush, put the head on. Yeah. That was a nice close fit. Connect the electrics, put the arms on, and then you're in it. And you're not coming out until they're finished. And that can feel like a long time in the heat. And when you're doing the shoot, I mean, obviously, is there any element of improvisation, or is it very sort of carefully choreographed? No, it's surprising how much, you know, you think you're doing it so many times, so many different repetitions. You try and do it the same, but each time it's a little bit different. Yeah. And just the way you walk off sometimes, they go, no, that's not right. You think, I thought as though I just walked off, you know. Yeah. It's a funny thing. But as I say, as it was my first time, I didn't know what was right and what was wrong. Just try and do the right thing. And over the years, have any other opportunities to bring that character back ever come your way? Not to me personally, but never say never. It might happen in the future. We'll see. Well, I say we just said it. 10th anniversary next year. I mean, that blows my, as a fan, that blows my mind. As for you who was in it, was I don't know where the years have gone. Every now and again it pops up on Facebook, particularly obviously around May the 4th.
Yeah.
And it said 9 years. I was here. Jeez, where's that time gone? I don't need the fat suit now. I've got my own one.
Oh, tell us. It's too easy, isn't it? So what other events have you got lined up, if any? Is there anything lined up at the moment?
No, not at the moment. There's a few bits and pieces on the telly that I've been involved in recently on Apple TV and on Netflix.
Okay.
But no other film work for the time being. But bits and pieces will come along. They've been filming The Crown around where I live, but I only tend to respond to the amputee roles because you've got more chance of being selected for that, and they're a bit more niche and specialised. But that suits me.
Yeah. And how's that worked out? I mean, is that? I mean, obviously it's a specific thing. It worked out perfectly for that character. How do you get into that specific? It's quite a specific thing. How do you get into that specific area?
Well, that was just off the back of a friend in the military sending out a group email to a load of amputees saying, "Get your names down, boys. There's an agency looking for amputees," and the rest is history.
Wow.
I think off the back of that and the success, obviously, I fortuitously got a lot of my friends are amputees are on casting agencies now. It's a lot more competitive to get a role.
That's awesome. So glad we got to speak again.
Thanks. Good to
enjoy the rest of your day.
To Mark. Cheers.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds. Bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
So great news for music lovers. The music from the first 4 episodes of The Acolyte are now online. The score by Michael Abel, it's out there, available on Disney Music Vivo, on YouTube, also on Apple Music and other providers as well. I'm thrilled to bits with this because I think the score is absolutely fantastic, and I wish there was more Star Wars music out there, something I want to pick up on in a minute. But what do you think to this music being out there now? Because they've done it with the last few shows. They've got the music out there nice and quick, but as much as I love it being out there, it does feel like they're giving away this fantastic Star Wars element for free all the time. But what do you make of the music being out there?
Do you know what? Every time we've recorded an episode of Reaction Chat for the Acolyte, I've put my headphones down and then kicked myself for not talking about the music, because I think the music, above everything else, is one of the standout things for this show. Bearing in mind that we've had some really good music with all the other composers, there's something so Williams-esque about The Acolyte. The last episode, it just felt like Dagobah. On Apple Music, there's 50 tracks or something.
Yeah.
It's not just like a couple of tracks. There you go, 45 tracks. And the thing is, because these are for TV, these aren't, big suites. Some of these are only really like maybe 90 seconds long. In fact, there's one here which is 46 seconds long. However, it's still nice to have because some of these tracks are well worth playing and just enjoying for really what they are. I think it's going to be really, really fun to see if they can hopefully do like the next 4 chapters. I think that'd be fantastic.
Back in the 80s, me and my mate used to make audio dramas, Star Wars audio dramas, and all we had for source music was double vinyl Star Wars, single album Empire, and Jedi and cassette, and that was it. There was nothing else. That's all we could draw from. And sometimes when we kept using the same music, we'd use Holst the Planet Suite, or we'd pick some classical bit just to mix it up, just so we got something different in the background, because you connect the scene so tightly to the music that you could be playing.
It's very difficult.
Totally. You could be playing the music from the Sarlacc pit, the Return of the Jedi piece from the original Jedi soundtrack. That's all you'd think of. You couldn't get beyond that. It was difficult. Now we have so much music. As you say, we've got all these TV shows now. We've got a lot more composers in the Star Wars space, if you like. One thing that I do wish they would do, and they do it eventually, they did it with Rogue One, they did it with Solo, they do vinyl releases. There's not been really any CD releases to my recollection since Rise of Skywalker. I wish that there was more available on CD. I want more physical media, especially with Star Wars, whilst I'm very happy to have it available to my ear just by going on YouTube or Amazon or whichever platform you want. I do think they're giving away this fantastic piece of Star Wars for nothing. It seems crazy to me. I'll just read what Michael Abel's had to say about his score. He says, the instrumentation of the score is classic orchestral with 21st century innovations. The multicultural percussion is live and virtual with heavy use of taiko drums. Some of the wind instruments are also virtual to achieve a sound that is of this world and beyond. Sonic textures and processed effects were incorporated to create terrifying musical moments, giving those sounds an organic quality rather than electronic. Voices are a crucial element with the limited use of a large choir, but throughout the score there is a featured group of diverse female voices representing the twins' home planet and the culture in which they were raised. Well, we saw that clearly in episode 3, Destiny, but I love the fact that we've got something that's on one hand quite earthy and rootsy. On another hand, it's got a lot of that mystery music feel from Attack of the Clones. You quite rightly picked up on the Dagobah feel from Empire. So he's not stolen anything, but he certainly took those moods.
It's available for streaming via Apple Music. It's not available, as far as I can see, from the iTunes store. The only one that is Power of Two from Star Wars Acolyte with Victoria Monet.
I think that's the end credits of one of the forthcoming episodes, which feels very much like what they did with Willow.
Yeah, exactly. They're definitely trying to do things that get the music out. Do you know what? It might just be a timing thing, because you can get the Kenobi one. So it might just be the fact that they might release all that later on. I'm well up for seeing actually what happens with the rest of the series and just seeing how dark some of this music gets, because some of that music at the end of episode 4 got dark and that, very moody and brooding. So it'd be interesting to see how he explores the dark side.
Ho, ho, ho! This is Star Wars Santa, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks, the gift that just keeps on giving.
So our second and final interview of this episode, we head back to Blackburn and Star Wars Fan Fun Day for our chat with Cavin Cornwall. Cavin was Captain Cavin Ithano in The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker. So here's our chat with Cavin at Star Wars Fan Fun Day.
Good to go. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're here at Blackburn. We're looking at Blackburn Rovers football pitch. It's Star Wars Fan Fun Day, and I'm here with Cavin. How has your weekend been?
Wow, I have to say the weekend has started brilliantly and has ended brilliantly. I am exhausted, but what a day. I mean, this is, first and foremost, I love doing it, anything for charity, and it's been a really, really good, for a great purpose, and it's so different to other little things that I do. This is why I love doing these things a lot more. I have a lot more fun for this than all the other genres of work that I do.
Do you do many conventions? Do you like getting out and meeting the fans?
I haven't done very, very many conventions. I've done a lot of personal signings, and that's because I work in theater, and I work in, I do a lot of voiceovers and film.
Yeah.
And so there's not enough time for me to do these. But when I do them, it's so different, and I just love the cosplay actors. I love the interaction of everyone that I get to meet. That's my thing. I really like that.
It's a decade now since you made Force Awakens.
Yes. Time does fly.
I was going to say, does that blow your mind that it's gone so fast?
Yeah. And I have to say, I was just saying it today that I still wake up in the mornings going, did I really just do Star Wars? Because as a kid, I always really wanted to do it. I mean, this is our generation.
Totally.
I know you're a very, very young man yourself. But I grew up with this, and I always wanted to be in Star Wars and be in space doing the Star Wars thing. And now that I get to do it for real, it's amazing. I just can't think of it's doing the best job in the world and getting paid for it. But having said that, it is hard.
Yes. I'm friends with Brian Herring. He told me I needed to speak to you. He said you've got to speak to Cavin. So how did this come to you? How did the whole process begin for you being that guy?
Well, it started, funny story, and Brian was very integral about that, because at the time in 2015 I was just about to go off and do Jesus Christ Superstar the World Arena Tour.
Wow, okay.
And we were going to do all states in America. We were going to kick off in Madison Square Gardens.
Wow.
And it was great. And they were saying, listen, we've sold out Madison Square Gardens, and we sold out this other big arena, and it's fantastic. The only problem is they did the big arenas, but they didn't do the small arenas.
Right.
So right at the 11th hour, and I'll come to that in a moment, because 3 or 4 occasions, Brian would go, all right, Cav, how you doing? Are you busy? And I said, yeah, Brian, I'm going off. I'm going around the world. I'm going to America, and we're going to just be fantastic. Jesus Christ Superstar, and I'm doing Caiaphas. Wow, I can't believe it. Oh, okay. All right. A couple of days pass. Cav, are you busy? Brian, I'm going to America. I'm playing Caiaphas. I'm going to America. Then the 11th hour came, and the wool was pulled out of our... Listen, I mean, the rug was pulled right under our feet. We had our last rehearsals. We had a video call from America going, it's fantastic. We heard you're doing great work, and we'll see you on Monday. This was Saturday. We'll see you Monday. And I said, oh, great, fabulous. And the whole company was happy. Yeah. And I got out there and they go, Cav, you going to come for drink and champagne and stuff like that? Listen, guys, I've got to go home because even though I do all of this work, I'm also a sports massage therapist, and I was taking care of the company as well. So jumped on the train, got on the train from Waterloo, heading back to where I live over in Surrey, and then suddenly my phone rings, and it's my agent going, Cavin. I said, hi, Danny, it's great. So where are you? I said, I'm just on my way home, going to get packed. Don't bother. I said, what do you mean don't bother? It's been pulled. I goes, you're joking. No, it's been pulled. They pulled it right at the 11th hour.
So all rehearsed, all ready to go.
We were all rehearsed, all ready to go.
Yeah.
When the reason why it got pulled is because they didn't advertise the smaller venues.
Right.
So even though selling out Madison Square Gardens and another big venue, it was all the other small arena tours, because it's arena tours.
Sure.
Madison Square Gardens, I mean, you've got, I think, about 22,000 you can hold in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was all the smaller venues, arena tours, will have 10,000, 9,000. Didn't do. And I'm in Britain, and we should have been over in America doing advertising. Yeah. Fell through. Oh. Saturday, and I'm thinking, now this devastated everybody because people lost their flats and their houses, because we were going off for like 6 to 9 months around the world, and so people gave up their flats they were renting, and I'm on the packed train, and I went. Can't say that word.
I've got a bleep machine, you fine.
And I said, you're joking. No.
Yeah.
And that was it. And people were literally in tears.
Yeah.
Brian gives me a call on Saturday. Cav, what are you doing? Brian, it's all falling apart. We're not going to America. Oh, great. So does that mean you're free? I went, yeah. Can you come to Pinewood on Monday? Yeah, what is it about? I'll see you at Pinewood at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Got to Pinewood, got the check-in, go, oh, you're Cavin. Great, fabulous. Can you go to the Black Box? I said, what's the Black Box? Which is like the head studio where everything happens. Went over there, okay, you're Cavin. Yes. Right. Can you go over to another section? Went in the next section, sat in a chair.
Yeah.
Plastic house. I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? I have no idea. This is not. No, it's definitely not EastEnders. And he go, right, you're finished. You're done. In the chair for about an hour and a half. I know this is a long story. I keep it short.
It's all good.
And went back over to the Black Box, and I go, right, Cav, sign this. I had no idea. And I said, what is this? I said, welcome to Star Wars. And that was it. Yeah. So basically, I was on one of the biggest jobs, which fell through and was devastating. And then on the Monday, it fell through on the Friday night, and on the Monday, I was in Star Wars.
Did you buy a lottery ticket? Because that's kind of...
No, that is the coolest thing ever. And I didn't buy a lottery ticket, but that's the closest thing.
Yeah.
So, and ever since then, I've done five movies and 2 TV series, Andor and Acolyte.
Right.
So yeah, I've really lucked out, and all of that is kind of due to Brian Herring. So Brian, if you're listening, thank you, bro. You're the main.
He
man.
will be listening. He'll love that. He will totally love that.
I owe him a lot.
Being involved, you're part of the family now. You've done all these projects.
Yeah,
trusted hands. So how has it been for you?
It's definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done. Bar none, because some of these costumes are not exactly easy. And, makeup, Ithano, everybody knows about the helmet. But what goes on underneath that, there's prosthetics. And that, to begin with, took about 4.5 hours of prosthetics and makeup to apply. Got that down to about half that time, so about 2.5 hours after, because it was all very, very detailed. Because you needed to see JJ wanted to see the eyes. He was doing a close-up, and he wanted to see it underneath, and I was playing a Delphidian, and I was the only one, so I had to represent a whole nation of Delphidians in certain aspects. And so I had anything between 2.5 hours and 4 hours of makeup, then another hour to put the costume on, and then I start work.
Wow.
And that was probably one of the easiest costumes I've been in.
Really?
Because a lot of the times, I've been in costumes where you can't hear, you can't see, you can't breathe.
Yeah.
And I've got headgear, basically radio mics telling me the description of the world around me.
Yeah.
And then I've got oxygen chants putting air in to give me something to breathe, and I can't see anything. I cannot see. So there's a lot of work that goes on before that. I have to map out exactly. So once that helmet goes on, that's it.
So in every sensory way, you're multitasking.
So if you've got a fear of being in tight spaces or having, just close your eyes and walk around a room, walk around your own room, which or your house gets from your lounge to your, say, up to your bathroom if it's upstairs. Try doing that with your eyes closed and see how easy that is. So, in certain shots, you've got stunts that are going on. 3/4 ton tables being flipped up into the air and landing, and I mean they're getting flipped up into the air and landing, and I'm running around the set and trying to dodge 150 extras is not the easiest thing in the world. So so if you've got a disposition of being in tight spaces and being claustrophobic, it's not the gig for you. But I find that a challenge and I love it. So it's definitely one of the hardest things that I do. And now you've got to act in front of it as well.
So 2015 was a very pivotal
year for me. For me in Star Wars. And I wake up every morning thinking, did I just do another Star Wars film? Another Star Wars TV production? It's great. And but it's, even though I've done it since 2015, I still find myself very, very new to it. So
which has got to be great. Keep that fresh feel, that every day's a new day kind of feel.
Yeah, but you have to have that love for it because it is so hard, and that's only just one experience. And I've seen people not do too well because of those things of being in the tight spaces or being closed off, and your sensory is being closed off completely. So it can be very, very, very disconcerting and upsetting. But I love it.
Amazing. We can't say anything about the Acolyte. It launches pretty much a year.
Can't say anything about
Acolyte.
Acolyte. Can't say anything about Andor, I'm afraid.
No, of course not. But did you have a good time doing those things?
Brilliant. Andor, yes. Acolyte, yes. I can't wait to see what Acolyte's going to be like. It's going to be... we don't get a lot of information about that. Only the sections that you do, we find out about. The scripts, you only get a portion of the script. So I don't know what's going on in Andor, apart from the scenes that I know. But all the reports from the fandom, they really like Andor, and I got a feeling Acolyte's going to be even more loved.
Same.
So I am really looking forward to that. I think it comes out quite soon.
It is. It's a month today as we speak.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, well, look at that. 2 fantastic interviews in the bag. Very well done, Mr. Newbold. And some good questions there. Now, if you've got some good Star Wars questions, send them our way. Maybe you're unsure how to do it. Luckily, Mr. Newbold has sent through a brilliant little guide on how you can send us your questions. Take it away, Mark.
Visit fanthatracks.com or be sure to comment, like and share on our social media feeds at Fanthatracks. Send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Temple for composing the Fanthatracks intro, Adam O'Brien for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Tune in to Good Morning Tatooine. It's live Sunday evenings, 9 o'clock UK, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And check out our Fanthatracks Radio Friday night rotation every Friday at 7 o'clock UK time for new episodes of The Phantom from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks, Cannon Fodder, and special episodes of Making Tracks, and every Tuesday at 7 o'clock UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks. And remember, fanthatracks.com, our social media feeds, Fanthatracks TV and Fanthatracks Radio are absolutely so no Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, Kickstarter or Indiegogo required to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news. And that's me done for this episode, Mark.
And I tell you what, it's really hot in here, so that is me done for the episode as well. It's a good job you can only see me and not smell me, because it's stinkier than a banther's armpit or knee pit or whatever kind of pit a banther has. Don't really know. No. Maybe that's a question for next week. I might have to research that. It's been fun, and we will catch up for the next episode of Acolyte for Reaction Chat. So stay tuned for that, everybody, when that drops. And so all there is left for me to say is have a fantastic week in Star Wars, whatever that means to you. Thank you for listening, and of course, may the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.